Senator Begich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I thought I wouldn't have time, and I snuck around. I broke some rule, I'm sure. And Doug, I gave your wife a hug. I hope behind your back. I want you to know that. In all full disclosure, but it's good to see you again in Rena. General Renoir, I have a couple questions first, and then I'm going to have a couple for General Fraser. But first, as you know, with the Arctic and some of the work that's now going on, especially on two fronts. One is the climate change that's occurring in the Arctic ice melting, and that you have three commands really that kind of manage the Arctic. Is there discussion, or is there an opinion you have in regards to this? That my personal view, and I leave it to the military to figure this out, that we probably have to unify this at some point, like we did. I think it was with AFRICOM, was a similar situation, 2 or 3 commands. Is there discussions now about trying to figure this out as we move more and more into understanding what opportunities, but also really challenges? And I think Senator Lemieux just mentioned one of those, but that's in the Aleutian. Some would think that's close to Alaska. It is, but it's hundreds of miles from the north. But are you now, as an organization, starting to think about this, or can you give me some thoughts on that?
Senator Begich, you bet. I was the former Vice Commander of Pacific Air Forces. In fact, and as you know, Doug Fraser was the commander of 11th Air Force, and he wore 4 hats.
I know.
And I always felt that it was important for U.S. Northern Command and NORAD to try to help reduce the number of hats that we asked him to wear. We continue that effort. We will have some discussions this year with the chairman and service chiefs in the Unified Command Plan discussion to help streamline that process. Certainly there is concern that we provide for an active defense capability for Alaska. As you know, during World War II, the Aleutian chain were invaded and held by the Japanese. That's something we don't want to repeat. The mission of that homeland defense falls in U.S. Northern Command. Mm-hmm. So we want to partner with Pacific Command and with the chairman and the Joint Chiefs to try to better streamline that process. So maybe we can take 1 hat or 2 hats off and get down to just a manageable amount.
Do you agree, as the Arctic continues its process, as we know, probably in 30 years is the estimate that all summer will be ice-free, that there's going to be a lot of other activity, civilian and military, by other countries within that region, and thinking now about it is probably to our advantage rather than thinking 10 years or 15 years down the line. Is that a fair statement?
Senator, absolutely. The Arctic, none of us are expert enough to know how much open water for how long, but certainly we're going to see more navigable water in the Arctic. It's an area where we had not focused our attention, national attention, for quite a period of time. Before the last administration left, they published a paper indicating strategy for the Arctic. I think that's a great start. We need to continue that effort, and I think partner with the Arctic Council nations on a common strategy for research and for development to settle disputes. And then finally, and I know the Senate will continue to consider this, the UN
Law of the
Sea Treaty is something that is critical to give us a seat at the table to be involved in these discussions, and we very much support ratification of that treaty as soon as we can.
You got my next question, which was Law of the Sea, and I guess one question that comes up, and tell me if you can, very short answer. Some are concerned that by the United States being part of that, the Law of the Sea, that we will give up some of our sovereignty. Do you believe that statement?
No, sir, I don't. I think United States sovereignty is something we hold and protect very dearly, and I don't believe we would give that up.
Very good. Let me ask you, if I can, on the missile defense system in Alaska. As you know, great debate last year. Should it be 40 plus or should it be 30? And the decision was through mutual discussions, and I think this committee did a lot of work to get to the agreement of 30. And do you still agree with that statement that there should be 30 operational GBIs there?
Yes, Senator, I think 30 is the right number. I would point out that the additional missiles that will be constructed are not restricted from being used if we were to need them.
Correct.
And I think that gives us some capacity to plus if that would be required.
Right, and I wanted to comment on that. I want to thank you for that, because I think one of the things you have done, especially in the last 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months, is create that flexibility that, depending on the situation, you could plus up and have a situation available or infrastructure available to handle that is part of the plan. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, yes, sir.
In that regard, one of the things that I want to make sure, I know in the 2010 budget, there's probably, I want to say this might be close number, $13, $14 million to continue to deal with Field 2 up there to get it completed. We know through our work and through your agencies or agencies of the Defense Department that it needs closer to about $100 million to finish out all the work that's necessary to keep that flexibility as they close down Field 1, which you know was a kind of a test site of 6. How do you think you'll be able to go about making sure those revenues, those resources are there to continue to make sure the base infrastructure is available to take care of the Field 1, which is in deplorable condition? Give me your, those are my words. I know those aren't the technical words. But
if I could, let me provide you some more detail for the record. But we work very closely with General Riley. I believe his view is that he's got sufficient flexibility to be able to ensure that we can keep Field 2 on track. And but let us get back to you with some more specifics on that.
That'd be great. And I just want to echo that. Please, whatever he can do to keep that moving along, because the mobilization of the equipment and the people are working, and when you demob, it just is more costly, and this is a huge opportunity. So I know he has a lot of flexibility, because the way we wrote that last year was to give him the flexibility as he saw fit. So if you could get us that, that'd be great, and I'd encourage him to move forward.
Yes, sir, we'll do.
Last question then, Doug, I don't want to leave you out, General Fraser, but one, as more and more alternative renewable energy is being debated in Alaska, one of the big issues is wind turbines. General Winraw, this is the last question for you. Are you dealing with that and understanding, and I know it's a very small, but I know we're starting to hear some concerns that it may interfere with the mission and airspace, and are you working with the civilian population to make sure we manage this correctly, and are there things we need to be looking out for as we deal, for example, with an energy bill and making sure that the military is not forgotten in this equation?
Senator, that's a great question. Very quickly, there is a challenge as we develop particularly wind farms, but we also see with new building construction where that development interferes with the send-receive capability of our ground-based radars. I sent a letter to Secretary Gates asking for a formal body to be formed, allowing us to review these so that a developer has a place to come to ask these questions.
Oh, great.
Secretary's committed Assistant Secretary of Defense for Homeland Defense, Paul Stockton, to lead that effort for the department. We're partnering with the FAA and others, but we need to continue to make this process mature. We've had questions from Senator Webb and others on similar issues, and we know that's a real concern, and we're committed to work that aggressively.
Great. Please keep us informed on that. That's great to hear that. Last, really for General Fraser, I feel like I have to ask you a question because I don't want to leave you there, and you are a great addition to our Alaska team up there, and I know you're doing a great job in Southern Command, and we've had some great discussion in regards to that. One of the things I want to just ask you, and I've had a conversation about a special unit within your organization that deals with kind of the humanitarian component and the work you do. Do you, and we talked briefly about how it's appropriate for your command. It may not be as appropriate for other commands, but have you found that component, that unit, of high value for your command in assisting you with some of the unique situations you have in Central America and kind of the Southern Command section? And maybe you could just expand a little bit on
Yes,
that. I found it very intriguing that you had this underneath your
You're
belt.
talking human rights? Or?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We have a human rights office that has been in existence for quite a number of years now. Has a human rights initiative in which 34 countries from around the region have all signed up to. A very active program, has made and helped enable a lot of significant progress throughout the region. Colombia has come up fairly dramatically in their efforts and their focus on this. Guatemala has the same. They're very much connected within this, so it's a very vibrant office and is out actively pursuing and enabling and enriching human rights discussions throughout the region.
And it's unique to Southern Command, is that correct?
Southern Command is the only combatant command that has one of these, and it's a resource that's available to any of the combatant commanders.
Very good. I again want to thank you for our conversation, especially during the earthquake and the work you have done there and your troops have done, and all the affiliated services that kind of came to the call immediately. As I had heard great descriptions of your capacity to stay up many long nights and sleep on whatever's available in order to continue to keep the command working. And I just want to thank you and the troops for doing such a good job under a very unique situation, and how fast you mobilized.
Senator, it's a great team effort. Thank you.
Very good. Good to see you both. In general, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Begich.